So welcome to the special English today. Today we have the news. Nobody is saved. Widows warning after husband psychotic mother is too sad to be released. Linda Green, 65, is shocked to hear the murder for husband Peter is to be revealed within days. A terrifying psychopath could kill again when freed just 8 years after being sentenced for murder, fears the widow of his victim. The Parole Board has agreed to release the James Spencer, who was declared a serious risk to the public by a judge and will be out within days. The heartbroken Linda Green, 65, is still tormented by grief after her husband Peter's slaughter and warns nobody is safe from the twisted killer. There's no justice, she said. If there was, he could be in jail forever. She added, I know it is a terrible detail, but people need to know what he did. He mutilated my husband. Peter had no flesh left. Every day in my nightmares, I see Peter being stabbed again and again and again. Spencer, who was described by the psychiatrist as high dangerous, was given a minimum of 7 years and 148 days in prison when sentenced in May 2010. There was on top of the 582 days he had already spent inside after the killing. Former nurse Lida collapsed in floods of fears as she told the Mirror how she haunted by the horrifying injuries her husband suffered in 2008. She said the only way she knew the body in the couple of breasts was her husband of 28 years was as she had his hair and spotted an old scar there. She added, that man totally mutilated my husband. He was stabbed and battered 32 times. He brought gun over him the head with 32 centimeter spanner, then cut his finger off. He knocked my husband's eyes out, his brain out. It was so bad he had to be identified asking his DNA. He mutilated him and he's been released to the general public. How do you justify that thing is saved? He's a psychopath, he's evil. I cannot comprehend how they justify allowing him to come to the next village from me, which is a mile and a half away. I go there shopping and I can't do that now. It's literally just down the road. Miss Green told how the night he died. Her husband, 67, had agreed to house and dog sit for killer's mom, Margaret Weller, who lived around the corner from the home in Semantoft near Huddersfield. She was off to Spain and worried her son would steal her belongings. Peter had been warned his own wife not to answer the door to alcohol Spencer. So at 4 a.m. on October 19, 2008, when Spencer knocked at Linda's house, she did not answer. She rang Peter, but his phone was off. The police told me that, warning me not to answer saved my life, she said. The killer left Linda's, went back to his mom's house on legit leg, grabbed a spanner from the car and dig down the door. The Spencer had been on 16 hours, being drinking more than 15 pints of Guinness, hotel and 7 or 8 workers. He went upstairs and started his deadly attack on Miss Green. The older man fled on French stairs. The attack continued as Mr. Green tried to protect his head. Spencer put his blood clothes in a big bag with the knife he had used, hurling into the neighbor's garden. He washed his hands, got his car, and calmly drove to his stepdad, telling him, "You won't believe what I have done. Come over and have a look." Linda still can't say Spencer's name and refer to him as she did. He's destroyed my husband, and he's destroyed me. I can see people kiss in the street and hold hands. It breaks my heart every time. She even had to quit working as a nurse because she could not cope with seeing death every day. Linda was on holiday in Spain recently when she got a text from the probation service telling her about new Spencer's release. She said, "I feel sick. I just couldn't believe it. I just sat there thinking, is this real?" She added, "I want to know why. The Parole Board has released him. The judge warned he's a danger to the public. When will they listen? The day he was murdered, I stopped living. I feel I'm on death row. I've got a life sentence, not him." Earlier this year, there was a public outcry when black-capped rapist John Woodboys, 61, stood to the release after serving less than 10 years. He was given an indeterminate sentence with a minimum 8 years for attacking 12 women. He is now suspected of more than 100 victims. In the High Court battle, his decisions was reversed. He is now appealing. The uproar led to minister scrapping a rule which bans from the disclosing why any offender should be released or kept in prison. The Mirror contacted the Parole Board about Spencer's case yesterday, but was warned it could take weeks. Spencer is going to be released in late August and will be taken and live at a hostel in Leeds. After Crown Court, he pleaded not guilty to murder but guilty to manslaughter through the diminished responsibility. He was given a sentence imprisonment for the public's protection, almost identical to life sentence with a tariff of age. He suffered from Asperger syndrome, need swing, and panic attacks, the court held. 2013, parole bid in failed, but this time the Parole Board said in a statement, "We can confirm a panel directed the release of Ms. James Spencer following the endure oral hearing in March 2018 that was completed on paper in July 2018. Parole decision are solely focused on whether a prisoner would represent significant risk. A prisoner probation service Spokesperson said, life sentence offenders are on license for life and subject to supervision and a strict of condition. If they fail to comply, they can be recalled to prison. Thank you very much for listening to this news. I hope you enjoyed this news. Please subscribe our channels to get more. Thank you.